Yeah, guys, extremely excited to make the selection of Isaiah Simmons. In our minds, certainly one of the best players in this draft, and to be able to select him at the 8th overall spot, we feel very fortunate. So, again, very excited, and can't say enough good things about the player, the person, all the different things that went into our evaluations on him. Really feel like he's an unusual, unique, dynamic player, a guy that does multiple things for you. This is my 22nd draft in the NFL, and I don't know that I've scouted many players like this. I tried to think about different comps. To have a guy that's essentially 6'4", 238 pounds, he ran 4.34 at the combine. When you watch him on tape and you see him play the deep middle, the deep half, you see him play in the box, you see him blitz, rush the passer. He's sort of a Swiss Army knife and does it all. And we call that kind of a player an eraser in this league, a guy that can cover tight ends. And, I'm fortunate enough that got to spend a lot of time with Dabo Sweeney, my college position coach, who I'm very close with. Robbie Caldwell is the line coach at Clemson. So we felt like the intel we had on the person and the player was second to none. And, again, very fortunate to feel like we had an opportunity to select him at 8. Just truly feeling like he's one of the best players in this draft.
Steve, when you look at a guy like this, first of all, about when were you thinking, okay, this is a guy that we'd really like to narrow in on if he happens to fall to us? And also, you've always talked about having that versatile piece on defense. Does he, on this level, move all around all the time? Do you have a specific place you'd like to start where he would be?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any question that you have to have a plan for him. But at the same time, I think it's one of those things that really, that's when you evaluate him, that's a strength, is his versatility and the things that he can do. So to me, the way he was used at Clemson, I mean, whether it's walking him out in the slot, playing him in a deep middle, letting him blitz, let him rush, I mean, all those different things. When you have a guy that's this long and this fast and this productive, you just let him go. And again, 100 tackles, 8 sacks last year, one of the best teams in the country. I was fortunate enough to see him play twice, once in the Fiesta Bowl, once in the National Championship live. And again, to see a man with this kind of length move this way, the way he covers ground, just exceptional. And then to see his story and think about a guy who's got a chip on his shoulder. Dabo Sweeney was telling me that he was one of the last commitments in that recruiting class, that they lost a couple players to the NFL draft. And 2 weeks before signing date, Brett Venables found him through one of his friends that was a high school coach in Kansas. Obviously, we know that going from Kansas to Clemson, South Carolina is quite unusual. So to be able to get your 25th recruit out of 25 players, it's sort of unusual, obviously, that he's a top 10 pick. And credit to him and his work ethic and the intangibles that he has. And it just kind of goes to show you it's better to be lucky than good sometimes.
Hey, Steve, this is McManaman. Was Isaiah the pick for a long time, and did you think he might not slip to you? Were you ready to make a trade? In other cases, how did this all come together? How long was he your guy?
Well, just the way we stacked the board, he was obviously one of the few players that we considered, elite. So for a long time, those top couple on your board, I didn't think that there was any chance that he was going to be there at our selection. But as you continue to talk to other NFL people, personnel, and then you start to see some more media reports, started to realize it could be a real possibility. And as the pick approached, the anticipation, the excitement, the nervousness, it was all there.
Hey, Steve and Kliff. Just wondering what the communication and logistics were like for you guys in this unique setup.
Yeah, Kliff.
Yeah, I mean, outside of no human interaction, really, pretty on schedule. I mean, we had our meetings. I thought they were thorough. may have been some of the best meetings we've had. I thought guys were well prepared and got their points across, and things ran really smoothly. So our IT guys were phenomenal, and to this point have had no issues. So it's been a pretty smooth process, other than you're not seeing guys in person.
Okay, no, if we could go to Scott Bordeaux, Craig Fooey, and Colin Harmon, please.
You're muted.
Number 8. All right, now I'm there. Steve, there were a couple tackles on the board at 8. Why Simmons over either of those two or three tackles that were there?
Because I had a rated much higher. Just, I think the offensive linemen in this draft, there are some good players, and there's still some good offensive linemen on the board. Again, my 22nd draft, and I've scouted very few guys that possess this kind of talent and production when you look at the big picture. So my mindset was, as it always will be, take the best player available. Some people probably think that offensive line is a need for us. No matter how you look at it, needs are always changing, and we're always going to take the best player on the board, and that's, in my opinion, was Isaiah Simmons.
Steve, you talked about taking the best player on the board a lot over the last few years and what needs you have now, or not necessarily what needs you'll have in October, November. When you looked at Isaiah, when you rated your board, was he in the top 5 on your board? How high was he up on your draft board?
I'm not going to give you the number, but he was, he was top 5. Yep. Yeah, I truly feel like he is one of the best players in this draft, and a guy who's going to have a tremendous pro career. Getting to know the person, love the way he carries himself, really sharp, instinctive, smart guy that can learn multiple positions. Talking to Dabo, one day he was in the safety room, one day he might have been in the linebacker room, went down in practice and rushed the passer some. So that's really his strength, is all the different things he does from a versatility standpoint. And this league has become a mismatch league where you see tight ends and you see different things that offensive coordinators like Kliff take advantage of defenses. And again, to me, this guy is an eraser and minimizes some of those problems.
Steve, with this new format this year, I mean, how hard was it to gauge what other teams were doing and kind of plan for what might come?
Well, we were able to follow along. The league has a live view that is through a website that I'm able to watch. So I'm able to, as live time goes, watch the picks come in, see how much time's left on the clock. This format, because it's virtual, it does seem a little quicker to me than being in a draft war room and that sort of thing. But, I felt like it was pretty smooth. Again, the biggest thing is being prepared, having your board stacked the right way, trusting in it. And once your opportunity is up to pick, you go ahead and make the selection. And again, regardless of whether there were calls, and, I did field some trade calls, this was a player that we were not going to pass on.
Next 3, please. We'll go Mitch Carr, Tressa Tudrick, and Howard Balzer.
Hey, Steve. I'm wondering, he's a national champion, as Isaiah Simmons. So was his ability to be part of a winning program and what he might bring to the Cardinals, was he able to, or was that something that convinced you that maybe this is one of your guys outside of his incredible athleticism?
Absolutely. And again, that's the big picture that you look at. You grade the player on tape, you grade the personal character, you grade the football character. And to me, this guy is the complete package. He's a winner. He's productive. He's got rare and unusual physical traits. So when you take all those things into account, coming from a winning program, playing against elite talent, I think if you study the film, and I watched every one of his games, his best game might have been in the national championship. He was all over the field. walk down to the slot, covers receivers at 6'4", 240 pounds. I haven't seen that often in my scouting career. So again, when you look at the big picture and having the intel that I had from the staff there and kind of person and player he was, felt like it was a pretty easy decision.
Steve, obviously the Cardinals had issues covering those tight ends this last season. Do you see Isaiah Simmons as the eraser, as you call him, being able to make an immediate impact on the defense? And what about his resume shows his ability to cover tight ends?
Yes, that was extremely attractive for us is his ability to cover tight ends. A lot of times in the NFL, what you'll see is many of the linebackers in today's game aren't athletic enough to cover the tight ends that are having success, and the safeties aren't long enough. You know, you have guys like Budda Baker, Tyrann Mathieu, guys who are very good football players, but they're also 5'8" to 5'10". Now all of a sudden you got a 6'4" guy with 34-inch arms and runs 4.3. And when you watch him move on tape, he's sort of like a Gumby doll. The guy's got zero stiffness. He's a natural knee bender. He's got tremendous lateral quickness, and he can run and close like a bullet.
Steve, you mentioned being a little bit nervous. How important was it that the two quarterbacks went off the board in front of you? And when that happened, did that make you feel pretty darn good you were going to get your guy?
Well, generally when it gets to be, Howard, about 3 or 4 days before the draft, I don't think I sleep much because my mind is constantly working, thinking about, you know, where we're picking, who's going to be there, how it's going to fall. And in this draft, that was the play. As I sat and I you know, worked different potential selections, especially with the 7 ahead of us. That was the key. It was, are the quarterbacks going to go, or is there going to be a run on 3 or 4 offensive tackles? And early on, it was quarterbacks. As we got closer to the draft, the misinformation got out there, and it became the tackles. So either way, I just needed a run on either tackles or quarterbacks to go to get him.
Next 3, let's go Urban, Root, Bordeaux, please.
Kliff, I know there's a lot of unknowns with the rest of the regular or off season, but now that we're here and you actually have a rookie we're talking about, especially a guy like this who might not have a singular spot, does having a guy like this and not having off-season field work, could that impact his immediate impact when the season does start?
Yeah, I mean, it will impact all rookies. I think if we do go straight to training camp, that, you know, every rookie that goes to training camp is going to have their head spinning a little bit. But it's our job as coaches to put an athlete like that in position to be successful. And I know our staff can do that, and I know our guys are thrilled to have a piece like Isaiah.
It looks like on paper that there aren't really any holes in terms of the starting positions on defense. Does that actually set Simmons up better to play a multiple roles on the defense like he's able to do this year?
I would say that's definitely going to help his growth process, and that we're not just throwing him out there and saying, hey, sink or swim. There will be a little bit more of a grace period, if you will, and us being able to, you know, move him around different spots and do different things with him, because there isn't just an extreme need. Sitting here today where he's got to play day one, has to make a major impact at a certain position. We want him to be comfortable. We want to use him in ways that he can be successful and make sure we maximize who he is as a player early on.
Steve, you said that if you could draft a guy in the top 10, you expect him to come in and make an immediate impact. You did sign, you know, Kennard and Campbell. Where do you envision Isaiah lining up initially?
Multiple spots, different defenses and different alignments. You know, I could see him as a dime linebacker, mo linebacker, strong safety, multiple spots, but he'll find his way on the field, that's for sure.
Okay, let's finish up with Kathy Fitzgerald if we could, and then we'll regroup.
To what you guys were just talking about, but with everything changing, has that changed how you envision how quickly you'll have him at all those multiple spots when there's not a need, just given the offseason being so different, like versus where you would have a month ago?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we'll see. Everything that we've found out about the kid is that he picks things up quickly. I mean, they've moved him around so many different places in college that he picked it up with no issue and wanted more and works hard at it. So we're going to see what he can handle. But I think as coaches, our biggest responsibility is to put him in positions where we can let him use those natural gifts and make plays on the field, because he is a unique generational type athlete, and we got to find ways where he's comfortable and is out there cutting it loose and playing fast.